Well, Jon Stewart had an interesting reaction to his friend Stephen Colbert losing his slot in late night, but actually CBS canceled the entire Late Show. We're going to get into it. I'm going to show you this clip. Before I do, make sure to subscribe at undercurrents.tv for the full premium experience of the show. We're coming up on our 1 year mark. Almost at 100,000 subscribers too. So subscribe here if you haven't on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. And let's take a look at Jon Stewart reacting on Monday to the news of Stephen Colbert losing his show.
Go fuck yourself! 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 Wait, bring it down. Let's bring it down. Little bit quiet. Fuck yourself! Just go fuck yourself! Everybody! Fuck yourself! Just go fuck yourself! Fuck yourself! Just go fuck yourself!
Oh my gosh, I hate that so much for so many different reasons. And if you've watched the show for a long time, you know that late night is one of my favorite punching bags, talking points. I just think it's a great illustration of what's happened with media in general, not just entertainment media, but also news media, that some of these institutions of monoculture, and Late Show is a good example on a broadcast network like CBS. New York Times is another good example. This is monoculture that has become microculture, and people like Stephen Colbert, I mean, Puck News says this guy was losing $40 million a year for the network. $40 million a year. It was basically at that point a welfare for anti-Trump resistance porn that Colbert was doing as the host of the show. And so the idea that you could sustain $40 million annual losses, I mean, the show has reportedly like 200 employees. It's super, super expensive to produce, but it doesn't get the views that the same show got. It's probably at least halved from where it was when Letterman was at his peak. And so you can't sustain that with ratings that put you, around 3 million a night. Not doing well in the demo, so that key demographic of viewers that advertisers want to see a bigger slice of the pie in, because you can sell ads to that demographic. There's all kinds of business reasons for it, but Colbert wasn't doing well on digital either, and that's the only other place you can make all of this up. You can make up the lost ground from all of the competition in media, creating your ratings. So as a business prospect, these shows, not just Colbert, don't make sense anymore. They have to be pared back substantially. One example that I think is really funny is like Adam Friedland right now is basically doing a 2025 version of the Colbert Report, and I guarantee you it costs at least half of what the Colbert Report cost, if not less than that, probably a lot less than that, and so very much less than what Colbert was doing over on CBS. So it is absolutely true that Paramount has a merger in the works with Skydance that it wants the Trump administration to greenlight. And it is true that Donald Trump does not like Stephen Colbert. He has made that very clear over the last couple of days. But the idea that a show that is now not ending until a year from now and is not just replacing the host is some sort of giveaway to Donald Trump. Now, it may be true that they're pitching it as a giveaway to Donald Trump in their communications with the Trump administration or with people in the federal government, regulators. They might be doing that. But that is not why they made this decision to cancel a historic franchise in a year from now, rather than replacing the host. If they really wanted to give away to Donald Trump, they would try to replace Colbert with someone who's inoffensive to Trump, innocuous, or even Trump friendly. And they would keep this historic storied franchise going and find someone who's cheaper, less offensive to Trump, and they would do it right now instead of a year from now. And also, they would find a way to make money. Kind of goes hand in hand. But anyway, so that idea, I think, really falls apart. I'm not saying there's nothing to be gained from Paramount, obviously, from doing this. I'm sure there's something happening behind the scenes. I think all of these things can be true at once. But primarily, this was a show that was losing money, losing viewers, and it made zero sense as a business prospect. It was basically functioning as welfare for the anti-Trump comedic stylings of Stephen Colbert, which just had, I mean, that guy is a shell of what he used to be. I'm as far back on Colbert's Strangers with Candy, Dana Carvey show. Dude was awesome, but he's not what he used to be. That much is abundantly clear. And he had a small audience, a narrow audience, like the New York Times has done for a while. They now have a small subscriber base, so they can't be the paper of record for the whole country anymore, but they still kind of think of themselves that way. And rather than just admitting their biases, they rather just, Colbert admitting that his budget and his salary should be much more narrow because he's now trying to operate with a narrow slice of the public. That's how he's winning late night, by the way, is he's cultivated, on the broadcast networks at least, he's cultivated a very loyal audience of people who want the resistance Trump porn. And that's what you do in the microculture world, but you cannot do it on macroculture budgets. It's why the New York Times, when people got mad about that Tom Cotton op-ed 5 years ago, June of 2025, they pulled it because their subscribers were angry. Even though it was not a decision that reflected journalistic integrity or neutrality, they yanked it because they're no longer the paper of record for the whole country. And so that's how the business models have shifted, and people have sort of failed to transfer that over to the new era. And that means budgets have to change, and it means your attitude about your own content has to change going forward. So it's just going to be like a year plus now of farewell to Stephen Colbert and The Late Show. But the lead that's getting buried in all of this is that they're getting rid of the franchise. They're getting rid of the show itself. You know, Colbert is so much less important as a symbol than that. These late night shows, if you're younger than me or probably even my age, I don't appreciate fully the power that, for example, Johnny Carson had. I mostly grew up on Leno. I don't fully appreciate the cultural power that Johnny Carson had in the water cooler era, especially before cable crept in. Certainly before streaming crept in the Fallon era, mostly, if we're talking about The Tonight Show. But it's almost incomprehensible to younger people, and the writing's been on the wall for a really long time. Maybe some of these franchises, maybe Kimmel, maybe Fallon, will exist in smaller fashions. They might get pared back. They might go all digital. I mean, Fallon's basically already doing a clip show. All of that content, in the most like Marshall McLuhan sense, it airs on TV, but you can tell that everything about it just screams TikTok and Reels and YouTube. You know, it's changed fundamentally what they're offering. And so they may cut salaries and staff and try to do these on pared back budgets. That's possible. And we will just see a fully transformed version. Something similar might happen with Saturday Night Live when Lorne Michaels is no longer in the picture, or maybe while he is still in the picture, because these shows just, it can't be sustained too much longer. They're houses of cards at this point, because they're no longer built on the advertising foundation that monoculture with less competition and everything afforded. So that's what's really happening. And these reactions, you know, from Dem politicians and Jon Stewart, I mean, it's just so very tiresome. And it's not left or right. I mean, again, Adam Friedland is doing a really funny show. Z-Way did a very funny show on, I think it was Showtime. There are ways to do left-wing comedy right now. It can't obviously be partisan like Colbert's is. Colbert has gone so far down the rabbit hole, or he's gone so far into this ditch or this doom spiral of just appealing to partisan anti-Trump people, meaning the comedy loses its honesty, it loses its edge, and it basically just becomes like something the Democratic National Committee would have as a warm-up act for a Joe Biden speech, you know, a couple of years ago. It is so bad, especially compared to what it used to be. But it's just so bad. It's not funny. But it works because he has a loyal audience of people who just want that. The problem is it's too small of an audience because nobody really wants that except for this tiny slice of the country. So if you can do a really good job with a tiny slice, you just got to have a smaller budget. And those are my thoughts on this. I could keep going. I could keep going for a very long time, but Thank you so much for tuning in. As a reminder, subscribe at undercurrents.tv for the full premium experience of the show. Subscribe on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back here with more Undercurrents soon.